Hey guys, long time no see. Yeah, you're probably wondering, wow, he's if anybody's still following me, subscribed is basically yeah, I get it. I've been inactive for 2 months. Where have I been? I've been through a lot of I've been going through a lot of personal stuff the last couple of months, and I mean I'm not comfortable enough to go into the details about that, but you know, between that is why I've pretty much been inactive on the channel. I'm going to try to see if I can be more active. And also, like a part of it was just I did want to do like a review of an overall review, like kind of retrospective on the Flash season 5. I did want to do reaction videos to the last few episodes, but every time I was like watching it on like the website with where I was streaming it, it would keep pausing and buffering as I was watching it, and I know that's not something you guys would even want to see. The constant stopping and buffering. So I just kind of threw in the towel with that and decided I'm just going to do an overall review, and also needed time to kind of like digest the season, see how I felt about it because it has been a mixed bag for the most part. Opinions have been pretty. It was probably arguably its most divisive season. I know the people have said that it's been better than season 4, but not as good as the first three. Some people said it was better than seasons 3 and 4. The people who have said that they ended up saying it was the worst season thus far, which is kind of a bit of an extreme. I don't know if I agree with that, but anyway, the more I think about it, the more it's like, yeah, this season has had its flaws in terms of pacing issues, how it's utilized villains, how they've handled, Chris Klein's Cicada. We'll get to that in a bit, but it didn't necessarily kill the season for me. I enjoyed it, and I felt like it was a step in, it was, one of the, better seasons in spite of it. Basically, some of the positives was that, they're spending, which I was asking for, and a lot of people were asking for in seasons, the last couple of seasons before that, where the everyone spends too much time with Star Labs, especially in season 4, where it's just like, they kind of basically lived at they almost like it was like they spent more time there than anywhere else. Like, it's almost like they kind of like it was like a second home basically. It's like, I mean, I get Harry and Cisco and Caitlin being there, but it's just like Iris being the team leader. It's I mean, I guess she's like quarterbacked some missions that it wasn't that much of a stretch. I mean I mean I didn't hate. I mean I didn't like. It didn't bother me as much as other people. I felt it was a little overly trash, but then in a retrospect, compared to how she's doing reporting, season 5, compared to the team leader stuff, it did feel forced. But it's like that's not the only problem. It's like Ralph was barely doing any private, using any of his private detective skills. Joe and Barrett, Joe is barely using his detective skills. We barely saw Barry as a CSI, which is basically relying on, just like looking up in the Star Labs database and like satellites, just kind of plot device satellites, but just like solve all the problems, look into everything. But this was not the problem this season. Season 5, at least they had them like going out into the field. Everybody using their respective professional skills to look into investigate either the villain of the week or anything pertaining to Cicada. I see a little bit more of Barry as CSI, a little, you get to see, Ralph be more a private detective, uses private detective skills, and also just, and that's the thing, that's also a major improvement. I feel like if anything, this season did right by most of the characters, especially, Ralph and Iris, because like I said, you saw her using her like being an investigative reporter, and like even using her skills to even didn't directly relate to her blog. It was like using her skills as a reporter to ask questions, talk to suspects, about and ask people about what's going, get some more feedback about anybody, like I said, either the villain of the week, about the villain of the week, or Cicada. And Ralph, who was very vocal on social media about how much I despise this character. Man, did they turn him? I was won over just by the season premiere itself. Like, he's less over the top. The character's more nuanced. He's not. He just feels like a real person instead of this like cringy, like Jim Carrey wannabe, like scummy cartoon character like he was in season 4. So then when he does have any moments of slapstick, it didn't feel forced. I was more often not genuinely laughing about it, and this whole thing with it, swinging around the city with Iris in 505, and then swallowing swallowing Ragdoll and laying on top of that car, like being like fitting himself into the time machine, the time spear when he and Iris went after Nora after Barry banished her to the future after learning about her allegiance with Thawne, which is probably the most boneheaded thing he did since Flashpoint, because it's like, I figured he'd be more pissed about the person, like, manipulating her than Nora. He seemed like he was more mad at Nora than Thawne, if anything. Or, like, taking out his frustrations about Thawne on Nora. And the thing, but, getting back to the positives, it even got to the point where, she ended up being the one who founded the founder and starting up the Central City Citizen. I mean, it started out as a blog, but how it's going to be like a real news? I guess it's going to be more like an online newspaper, even though, because it's like she's working out of working out of a small office, and yeah, I guess it's not going to have like a printing press or anything, so newspapers like that are kind of like dying. That industry is kind of dying out, and but yeah, we got to see a little bit more of Barry's CSI. I don't know if we saw like too much, but like I said, everybody felt like they were spending time outside of Star Labs, even if they weren't investigating stuff relating to the villains. They were at least like out and about, watching Barry at a baseball game between CCPD and CC, the Central City Fire Department, or going out ice skating, and just like being out and about, like having activity. Like you see them having lives outside of Star Labs and doing stuff outside of Star Labs. So it's like that's something I've been missed since the earlier seasons, the first 2 seasons. And it's like, okay, this show feels grounded again. So that's like, and so that's definitely a positive. And I did like Jessica Parker Kennedy, the addition of Nora. There are times where I felt like, from 510 to 514, she did kind of get on my nerves, just because it feels like she was basically channeling her inner Kevin James as much as her father, even more so, just because of the fact that, one, how her botched attempt to sort of like reached out to a repentant weather witch. I guess it's like, at first she like reached out to her by the end of 510, but then all of a sudden she's back in episode 520, and she's like a full-blown villain now. So it's kind of like what was the point of 510? And that it's like, I guess like it kind of what was the point of her being like remorseful for 510? You have to wonder. The only thing you can rationalize is that basically she was not, I guess in the end, Nora kind of failed to appeal to her, appeal to her humanity, or like her good side, in the same way that Barry was able to appeal to Leonard Snart's good side, and wanting to better themselves. And then of course there's 514, which is like easily hands down like the worst episode of this, the laziest written episode of this season, where it's just like she was going back in time, like it ended up being 52 times, just because like the writers are obsessed with like, oh, new 52, let's make a 52 reference, but then just makes, in the context of the story, it makes her look like an idiot, because of the fact that I've seen the time loop episodes done better, where it's just like in a scenario like that, it's like they tell people what's going on by the third or fourth loop, and they start like trying to come up with solutions, and maybe it would just make her, going about it like that would have would not have made Nora look so incompetent because basically the whole episode would have boiled down to if she just said anything to anybody, the whole thing would have been resolved. And I guess like the thing to think about at least having Nora around is that Barry was making less stupid ass decisions for the sake of the plot. It kind of forced him to kind of like step up and set an example and kind of like use his not so much look before he leaves, which is something that at least that's continued from seasons 4. Was like he's been making less boneheaded decisions. So that was a plus. Again, it was just like that span for, and that's another thing where I feel like Nora became a divisive character because of like all like the mistakes she made, but then like looking back on it, it's like it's not that much worse than Barry in earlier seasons, especially they try to go for specific parallels. With Gone Rogue, Barry, like Nora, Barry tried to use members of the Rogues to help further their achieve an end goal, and they end up being backstabbed, or both of them like trusting Thawne. In the case with Thawne, and this is what I liked about the Thawne storyline, is that it was different from, him being the big bad in season 1, because at this point he was like in a jail cell. He was in prison for Iron Heights for like a 15-year period, and he did not rely on his speed. He basically had an hour to live on his end of things, and he was basically, he would basically just appeal to Nora by saying that, his last dying request was to help Nora meet her dad, help stop Cicada, which is the one villain that Barry was not able to stop or catch in Nora's timeline, and stop them from disappearing in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was originally supposed to take place in 2024. And it just felt like he was able to like muster up like a level of fondness towards Nora that I don't think he was able to even to muster up towards the rest of Team Flash. He kind of came across as a little bit more like standoffish than and maybe that's a testament to Tom Cavanagh's acting. He seemed like more like I don't want to say that, not I guess like more like affectionate towards the lack of better terms. And but in their time, so he made it because like between like showing more like I guess more care, how much he showed that he cared about Nora, and there are times where he actually worried about her well-being, like connecting to the speed, the negative speed force and stuff like that. But at the same time, you would see him smirk, see him smirking, and it was just like, okay, what is he up to? Like, I felt like the whole time I felt like it was like, okay, he can go. He's either on the level or just trying to playing her like a fiddle. I felt like this could go either way. This is testament to Tom Cavanaugh's acting and the writing, that he was more inscrutable in this season than he was in season 1, and because I don't think it was like the craziest idea to entertain the notion that Thawne was possibly on the level, just because I've seen other shows, Arrow and Legends, where Slade Wilson and Damien Dark respectively just they wanted to atone for their actions, and we also seen something like that with Negan on The Walking Dead, and I've seen that with Brainiac on Smallville, where it's just like, okay, yeah, they kind of seen where he was kind of had the same personality, just his moral code was flipped, his morality was flipped. And I thought, okay, maybe it's the same thing with Thawne, which is why he kind of acts a little bit full of himself at times. But then throughout I started to buy like, okay, maybe he really is on a level, in episodes like 18 and 19, but then like by 21, the fact when the timer was up and he says like, how does it feel, how does it feel knowing that this is going to be the end for you? And Thawne the warden asking Thawne that, and him just smirking, time will tell. And then, Rao questioning Thawne's plan, why he's so obsessed with destroying the dagger, and asking all these questions about, the cicadas, and Nora, punching the satellite interfered with instead of like the DAC, the shrapnel creating all these like different, creating this meta tech, which is a really cool idea, which is a pretty cool idea. I don't know if it got explored enough, and then the dagger, instead of reaching David Hirsch like he was supposed to, it ended up reaching this guy named Orland Dwyer, who, even though I like the concept of a serial killer of metahumans, it felt like he had a weak backstory, especially since it wasn't as fleshed out as, say, like Agent Liberty on Supergirl, where it's past events through on that show. The point it kind of slowly drove him over the edge. And I thought they would do something, take a similar route with Orland Dwyer's Cicada. They didn't. It was just basically, okay, basically your sister and brother-in-law was killed off screen. Here's your niece, and then the next bad thing that happened to him was, like, getting hit with a stab with a dagger, and then her daughter going into a coma with shrapnel in her forehead. And it felt like he was just mostly just killing metahumans just because, like, that doctor Amber Abrams, or Ambers, I don't know. Like, she was basically already had a hatred for metahumans, and he was basically like acting like a double on his shoulders more than anything, more than just it was more that was I feel like it was more motivated by that than trying to avenge his comatose niece or any wrong done by him. And his acting was just like, Chris kind of give like a nuanced performance when he's not trying to be evil, but when he's trying to be evil, he tries to do this Batman voice and talks like this, like, "What did they do to my Gracie?" And it's like he even does the talking when he's like out of costume, when he was being interviewed by Iris and he was trying not to act suspicious, but his voice and his face, like he was like drunk or constipated, like very suspicious, and it was just so cringy and hammy. And it's like, I don't know how nobody on set said anything to the guy about his acting, and the fact that it's like he should have been defeated at the 100th episode, but it's like people kept letting him get away because of the fact that they never had the good sense to like subdue him whenever to like knock him out or like put him in medicuffs or something whenever he was like injured or subdued or like distracted. And it's just kind of ridiculous how it's like, I feel like they might have used like Jesse L. Martin's like medical leave as a crutch for this, because it's only like after he came back, it seemed like they seemed to like wrap up that whole storyline with that one. And like episode 12, even I actually liked the older Grace Gibbons Cicada 2 from the future, because like 512, when they went into her memories, it's like they did a better job of like fleshing. I feel like they did a better job of like fleshing her out than her uncle, because at least like she witnessed the death of her parents firsthand, just like as like a little girl, as a child, just like Batman saw, Bruce Wayne saw the death of his parents, or how Zoom saw the death of his mom. In at least the show's version of Zoom. So they felt like they like the parallels there. Like she lost parents just like Barry, and then of course living with her uncle, who started off a belligerent drunk who didn't want to have anything to do with her initially, and then being sent into a coma and soaking up her caretaker's like anti-metahuman rhetoric. And the fact that it's like, okay, she became like she had a clear power set instead of like different powers as the plot demanded. And with the sort of energy blast that allowed her to like move, and also allowed her to like subdue people and move people around, gave her some form of like telekinesis. And the fact that she had a more elaborate scheme besides her uncle than just like punch stab and meadow every now and then. It was she seemed like she was more like a domestic terrorist, which is kind of how I guess like how the David Hirsch version would have been in Nora's timeline, which is why he was so hard to stop. And she had a trained fighter. It was apparently presumably superhuman agility to be able to deflect like bullets and energy blast from any of the Team Flash metas, and she didn't rely on plot armor nearly as much as the Orland Dwyer Cicada, and it was a much more nuanced performance. And I can understand like why this version of Cicada had like 156 people, 156 body count. Yeah, because she was more like a domestic terrorist, and she was, based on her schemes about trying to create like unleash a virus from Cisco's metahuman cure. So, I mean, she wasn't in too many episodes. I mean, she wasn't a threat that should have been last for a couple of episodes, so she had the right amount of screen time. I kind of wish she showed up sooner, and I basically, this season should have been broken up in arcs, where it's just like, okay, Cicada 1, taken care of after the 100th episode, done. Another arc, The Young Rogues, done. Another arc with Icicle, done. Another arc with Thawne, done. And speaking of the metahuman cure, I mean, at first I thought this was the reason they were trying to think of a reason for like Cisco to leave the show, and which is why he was so all of a sudden this animate and giving up his powers, even though he kept talking about how much he grew to love his powers over the last couple of seasons, and even like getting a pep talk from Caitlin saying like his powers are not his only defining trait, which I feel like they're trying to go like a similar route with Harry's arc in season 4, where he just felt like his intellect is not his only defining trait, and they tried to like deconstruct that, but not done as well because I don't know, there was no like specific reason for what changed Cisco's mind, saying like, oh, I want to settle down, I want to have a wife and kids, and it's like you can have that and still be a superhero. I mean, and then when he finally took, it's like you figured, okay, this is like Cisco's way of like exiting the series and spending more time with Camilla, even who also was supportive of the fact that he was a superhero. So it made the whole reason even more flimsy. And now I feel like what's even pisses me off more is that there have been set photos on season 6. They're already filming that, and Carlos Valdez is still on set. So it's like, if he was going to give us his powers, why not wait until after Crisis on Infinite Earths to do that? And which, because of Thawne's plan, which is ultimately, I had no idea. I mean, even when I found out Thawne was up to something in the second to last episode, I never would have guessed that the Cicada's dagger was under his vest and helping to keep him in Iron Heights, and that's why he wanted the dagger destroyed, which is basically to escape his execution. Even when the Team Flash finally caught on to Thawne's plan, something they were still forced to do anyway because there was no way to stop Cicada 2 and make sure and have the cure on young Grace take effect until the dagger was destroyed and erased the older Grace from existence. And they had this like cool fight with Thawne, and basically the whole fight was definitive proof of why they don't have speedsters as forefront villains, because they were able to kick Thawne's ass with their combined powers almost effortlessly. I mean, I think the biggest tearjerker about that episode was the fact that, and it also made Thawne's storyline different from season 1, was that he actually got the last laugh, because destroying the dagger had surprisingly massive implication on the timeline, to the point where not only it erased Nora from existence, and even though Thawne like used the opportunity to escape, still could have brought metahuman cups, but whatever, to keep him subdued, but he got away. Used the negative speed force, which he said was the place that was immune to timeline changes, which also was the subtle explanation for how he kept being able to cheat death, and they were given the same opportunity. He told Nora and Barry he had the same opportunity to save her, but she decided, you know what, I made enough mistakes. I don't want this power corrupting me like it did Thawne and making me a monster like him. It's like I had to accept the consequences for my action, and she accepted getting erased from existence rather than becoming evil like Thawne. And that was like probably one of the biggest tearjerkers in the series. That actually, just thinking about it, looking back on it, it gave me like a lump in my throat and kind of got me misty-eyed a couple of times. And I mean, I guess that was a way of just kind of wrapping up Nora's storyline, not having her stay in the past. But I guess she was erased from existence, presumably because her actions of destroying the dagger caused the Crisis on Infinite Earths event to move up from 2014 to 2019, as some fans predicted. But it kind of leaves me wondering, because she wasn't born until like the 2020s, Nora. So having Barry disappear in 2019, or said disappear in 2019, means that Barry disappeared before him and Iris can have any kids. It also kind of makes me wonder, like, how like that event alone, how destroying that dagger alone, it caused such a massive change that it causes this event that's going to affect the entire multiverse. When events that are changed in the timeline of one universe does not affect like the other alternate universes, kind of left me hanging. And like it had like a lot of plot conveniences that they also didn't explain, why Thawne was doing in the in the future that he ended up getting stuck there and imprisoned in Iron Heights. How Iron Heights got their hands on the Cicada's dagger when he was never caught, and that's the thing I want to look into. That's the thing I'm hoping for in season 6, that they're not so many like plot conveniences, like like what I just mentioned, the dagger. Like sometimes it dampens powers, and other times it doesn't. Just like how it worked was just inconsistent as Barry's speed, and less relying on plot conveniences. More episodes like say like 515, where they're people in Star Labs and Nora like using their collective intelligence to deal with the whole Gorilla Grodd King Shark problem, or more like Gorilla Grodd thing. That's more episodes I wanted to see. Also, one of the strongest episodes I've seen, as well, along with the Godspeed episode, also Wasted Potential. He's basically like a one-off villain. I mean, he's supposed to come back for season 6, the premiere. But as of all the villains they've taken liberties with as far as their origins from page to screen, that's the one that should have stayed consistent from what I read about him, because he's basically supposed to be basically like a speedster version of the Punisher, from what I read about him, and it would have been a great dynamic of being, I guess, kind of being like, kind of antagonistic, and have a whole like Daredevil Punisher dynamic that they had on season 2 of Daredevil, challenging Barry and saying it's like your way doesn't work, and making Barry, making people on the team question if he's Gospel was totally right or wrong, kind of like how Mayhem did that for Cloak and Dagger on their series. Like, are our methods completely justified? Or are they justified in some ways? It would have been a great like season 6 plot, but I don't think that's the direction they're going in. But again, I just wanted to. But although this season 5 was a step in the right direction, I give it a 7 out of 10. I felt like it's not as good as seasons 1 and 2, and I feel like season 6 has the potential to be as good as those seasons if it learns from the mistakes of this season. More mini arcs, less plot conveniences, no plot-induced stupidity, just to nerf the team, and they got new showrunners, so it has potential to kind of be as it did wonders for Arrow season 7 for the most part. Let's hopefully it does the same for season 6 coming this fall. But anyway, how do you guys feel about season 5? What did you like? What did you dislike about it? Is there anything I forgot to mention? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.